Wait a minute, I hear something.
Dr. Movie! Dr. Movie! Blueberry News! Dr. Movie! Dr. Movie! Yeah!
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dr. Movie, where we're easing on down the road and talking about movies. We've got I consider this one a classic. You could say it's kind of a Halloween ripoff. I mean, they definitely do some things in this to kind of go in that direction, even get Jamie Lee Curtis to be in it. But with that being said, it was good enough to have a sequel, which is definitely coming up next and definitely different than this movie. But you also got a remake of this a few years back, which I have not seen. Maybe I need to check that out and review it. But we were talking about 1980s Prom Night. And, you know, this is 1980, so you know with me, it's that sweet spot, right? You're getting that late 70s, early 80s theatrical look, even though, for some reason, this one feels like it's made for video in a way. I'm not trying to diss the quality of it, but it's got that VCR aesthetic to it that we love from around 83, 84, 82, all the Italian flicks and stuff that we got our hands on, and it's been panned and scanned. This one kind of feels like that. It is a horror mystery from, like I said, 1980. It got a 5.3 on the IMDb. You know what? To me personally, I'm already going to show my cards here, but I kind of put it a little higher than that. The formula hasn't been wore out at this point in the slasher genre, and it definitely does later on for sure. But let's read a little synopsis here. It says this slasher movie follows a relentless killer who is out to avenge the death of a young girl who died after being bullied and teased by 4 of her classmates, now high school students. The guilt-ridden kids have kept their involvement a secret, but when they start being murdered, it's clear that someone knows the truth. Sorry for the loud cars there. I was reading that at a stoplight. Also coping with the past are members of the dead girl's family, most notably her prom queen sister, Kim Hammond. So, I mean, that's a little too detailed, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So, do we not have a, yeah, why to watch? Hey, it's nail-biting, malicious, and uneasy. Nail-biting. Yeah, I like that. It's definitely got some scenes in it that hold up. Let's see. It has interesting and likable characters, some glorious, cheesy, even hilarious scenes, and nice disco music. Yeah, man, 1980. This is right before the nosedive, the swan dive that disco takes. But yeah, I mean, this was the pinnacle, really. A lot of good scares throughout. It can be a little slow, but if you're a slasher fan, I recommend it. Yeah, again, you're hitting that sweet spot. The slow burn was just part of the formula. It was more character development and the suspense of them getting these obnoxious phone calls, the whispering voice, you know, that kind of ties in all that, but I think it works. It says the opening scene is brilliant and creepy. The finale is great. It's just everything in between is weaker. Well, I can say this about it. It takes a long time for the action to happen, but when it happens, it's like nonstop. I mean, they didn't waste any time when it came time for all the action to happen. It all happens pretty quick. So I don't know. I think again you're doing some delving into the mental state of all of these people, because they're hiding a secret. They know that the family's affected by this, and I don't know. But when they start getting the phone calls, it all comes back. It's kind of like Night of the Scarecrow, right? They try to keep it a secret, and when it starts coming back and haunting them, then they start freaking out. It's kind of the same deal here. I will say, a couple of things to look out for in this movie. Well, there's a brawl going on in the lunchroom. There's a huge kiss poster hanging in the cafeteria. 1980, yeah, they were pretty much the biggest band on the planet, even though they were doing disco songs at the time, right? I was made for loving you, baby. Which is the only disco song on the album, by the way. So that's the Dynasty album. Came out in '79. Don't get me on my Kiss history here, my Kisstory. But yeah, I mean, so there's this huge Kiss poster which I would love to have, but I'm sure it's long gone. You've got let's look at a cast, right? We didn't even talk about our cast yet. Well, we already said we got Jamie Lee Curtis playing Kim. She is the sister. There's a little brother and two sisters, and they're walking by this old abandoned building. It could be a warehouse, could be an old school, who knows? And there's other kids and they're playing basically hide and seek. But when the seeker is looking for them, they said the killer is coming. The killer's going to kill you. Kill. And they're playing this game. Well, one of the little girls, Jamie Lee Curtis's sister, decides she wants to go in and be one of the cool kids. So let this be a lesson to you. Don't always try to be one of the cool kids, because they can scare you and push you out a window and make you fall to your death. So don't worry about being one of the cool kids. Be who you are. That's a public service announcement from Dr. Movie. But yeah, the little girl goes up there, wants to participate. The little brother acts like he's going to go on home. He's like, look, let's go home because they don't want you to be in their game. Jamie Lee Curtis's character runs back another direction for something else. So the girl goes in by herself and ends up falling to her death. And the other kids make a pact. There's 3 girls and a boy that's playing this game. And they make the pact to not tell anybody. And as soon as they leave, you see a shadow of a person standing over the body of the girl that fell out the window. And then it cuts to an ambulance showing up, and Leslie Nielsen shows up. Leslie Nielsen is Mr. Hammond. He's Kim's mama. You know, all the kids, the little girl that died belonged to him. So he's got, you know, he had 2 daughters and a son. He's also the principal of the school. And they kind of have somebody they already want to blame for this that has been, you know, known to traumatize kids or mess with kids. I don't know, but that's where the whole Halloween thing kind of kicks in. Because, you know, this guy gets put away. And then after all this happens, is there anybody else to really talk about? I don't think there is. That's your 2 main characters. I mean, come on. Leslie Nielsen and Jamie Lee Curtis, what else you want, right? But you get 6 years later, and it's time for prom, right? They are now teenagers, and they're getting ready, and this is when the girls all start getting the phone call, right? Well, everybody that was there that was involved start getting phone calls basically saying, I know what you did and now it's my turn, scaring the crap out of them. So they're all uneasy. And you got one girl that's the rich brat that drives around in a Corvette. The other 2 girls are kind of just normal, happy-go-lucky girls that are looking for a good time. One of them hooks up with this guy that's got a van, which, again, that's another thing I like about this movie, is it's really showing you the teen aspect of things from this time period. And it's pretty much correct, because when I was a kid, at this point, I would have been 10 years old. So this would have been the age group that I looked up to. These were the cool kids when I was 10, right? The teenagers. And man, 1980, it was nothing to have a great big van as a shag wagon, right? Or you decked them out. I mean, customizing a van was like the coolest thing you could do back then. That or have a super, muscle car. And so that gets played into here pretty well. But one of the girls ends up with this guy that's got the van. And again, you're doing a lot of character building. And when it comes night for the prom, which I want to say this too. This is the first movie. I saw this before I saw Carrie. So this movie made me go, wow, this is what prom looks like? It was pretty impressive. But it also made me not want to go, because people get killed at prom. So, but yeah, man, they had the Saturday Night Fever dance floor in their school for prom. And they had these cool runways with the blinking lights that would run up and down, and they had an archway that was all lit up, and I mean, it's swanky, y'all. So I have to admit, when I was old enough, even though I didn't want to go to prom, my mom made me go, believe it or not, twice, both times. I was disappointed that it didn't look like that. It paled in comparison, right? And we were comparing late 80s to early 80s. So, yeah. So this movie made me think this is what prom was supposed to look like. And, wow. I think everybody was disappointed at that point. But, yeah, this is where all the action happens. You've got a masked killer going around and taking out the kids one by one, till it gets to the struggle of Jamie Lee Curtis's boyfriend, who was actually the boy that was in the building when all this happened. And you kind of get the story revealed at that point. But what they do well is there's a lot of, again, the Halloween thing, because they've locked this guy up, and he also happens to break out right in time to be back in town for the prom, right? And you get people sitting in the classroom and looking out the windows and seeing suspicious blue Volkswagen Beetles going by. I mean, they're really playing on some of this Halloween stuff. And again, I mean, why wouldn't you, right? It became such a hit. And but yeah, I think the kills are decent. It's not super bloody, but it's done well enough that you get the point, or they get the point. I'm not going to say much more about it, because I don't want to ruin it if you haven't seen it. It is kind of a slow burn, but it kicks into gear, and you are limited on characters. So as far as figuring everything out, not too difficult, but I think it still holds up very well. And here's the interesting thing about it. It's a Canadian film. It's the #1 top grossing film of 1980 for Canada. So at least got that award. And of course, everybody was scrounging to find their own version of Halloween. Any kind of event, calendar event that they could throw in. It's how we got Friday the 13th, all that stuff, right? This movie is no different. That's kind of where we got it from. This movie was made for $1.5 million, and it grossed in the theaters $15 million. So, I mean, it produced really well. I don't think you see that kind of return on movies nowadays, even though it's $300 million to make something, you know. So, hey, for a little low budget Canadian film, this thing did really good. And come on, it's a classic. I mean, it's on Tubi, and it's, like I said, it's got sequels. This movie's been around for quite a while, so hats off to you, Prom Night. I like this movie. When it really gets going, and you're starting to see, you know, the killer on the loose, doing their thing. Yeah, I think this works, and they try to throw enough red herrings in there for you to keep trying to figure out who it is, and that's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to ruin it, but yeah, I recommend this one. This is again just a horror standard. Is it the best? No, not by a long shot. But is it worth watching? Absolutely. I give this a 4 out of 5. I just think it's a really good, solid flick. So there you go, folks. You can take that, put that in your pipe and smoke it. And hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think. If you're a fan of Prom Night, let me know, right? I'd like to hear. Or if you say, it's okay, you know, any kind of interaction at all, because I'm a one dude podcasting by myself. So any kind of interaction, I think, is healthy. All right, folks, that's it for this one. We will check you later.